Hi, Peter Charles of Hooked Fly, fly fishing. And today we're going to tie the black ghost. Now this pattern has a special significance for me, as it was the very first fly that I ever caught a fish on. It was when I was a teenager. I bought a cheap fiberglass rod from Canadian Tire, a Blanchard Algonquin, a horrible reel, cast reel, had no click on it, it just spun. And I couldn't afford tapered lines, so all I had was a level floater and a level sinker. So went out with my buddy and his dad's tin boat onto the St. Lawrence River, and I had that level sinking line on. And of course I had nobody to teach me how to cast, so I'm just thrashing the thing and stripping the fly back, and wouldn't you know it, I hooked onto about a 1 pound smallmouth bass, and that came on a black ghost. Don't have the fly anymore, unfortunately, but you know, it sort of brings back old memories trying to tie this pattern once more. So let's get at it and see the materials we're going to use. The hook today is going to be a size 2 streamer hook. It's a 7 extra long. Now, I've got to tell you, I really don't like fishing long streamer hooks. I don't like the way they come through the water. But this is a traditional pattern, so I'm going to do it on a traditional hook, even though it's not my preference. My thread is a uni black and a 6/0. Our throat and our tail is yellow saddle hackle. Our rib is going to be a medium silver oval. We're going to use a black floss for the body. And our wing is white bucktail. Okay, let's get started, but before I get into it, I'm going to describe a little cheat we're going to do with the body. You normally don't do this with floss bodies, but I'm going to do this today because there's a way around it. So, you know, anything we can use to save time, it's not going to show, that's fine. If I was tying a work of art, this would be different, okay? But today it's going to be a fishing fly, so it's about getting it done. And the other aspect about this fly that I want to talk about before we get into it is if you look on the internet, you'll see lots of variation of this fly using a feather wing. And I think the feather wing is probably the most traditional, though bucktail wings are also done. But I think a feather wing is probably a little bit adventuresome for a beginner series, so that's why we're going with the bucktail today. Okay, let's start by tying on our thread. Now this is the cheat I'm referring to. If I was putting on a single layer of floss, I wouldn't do what I'm doing. I would want to make sure that thread is in touching turns so it's nice and smooth, so when I lay on the floss there's no ridges. However, I'm laying on 3 layers of floss, so it doesn't matter. This is not going to show. So I'm just going to do that rather quickly to put down the body. Now the next step is to tie in our yellow saddle hackle. So grab about 1/2 inch. Tear them off. Make sure they're even. Bring your thread back to the hook point. Pinch loop, pull up. Keep everything on top. Make sure it's in good shape. There we go. Now you see those stray bits at the front. Just come in with your scissors and cut them off. Next bit is to tie in our tinsel and come from behind and tie it underneath. And there's a reason for that. The tail and the floss are making a bump on the top. I'm going to make a bump on the bottom with the tinsel. Next we're tying on our floss. Floss is easily damaged, so be careful with it. If your fingers are rough, I would suggest that you put some lotion or something on them to soften up your fingers before you do this, or at least get the roughness off your fingers maybe with some pumice or whatever. Because otherwise, if you've got very rough fingers, it's going to just shred this floss. Okay, let's bring our thread back to the front. Again, I'm not particularly worried about this step because the floss is going to cover that over, we won't see it. Okay, watch the hook point when you start. Don't snag the floss on the hook point. Keep your floss underneath. I'm going to leave a little tag there. I'm going to push it underneath the hook and wrap it in. Well, we did almost a good job. There's just a slight little bit of a little bump there, but you can see how by putting 3 layers on, I was able to conceal that bump that's caused by the tinsel and the tail. So we did have a little bit of the floss coming apart on us. This floss is old. I think perhaps I should throw it away and use my fresh stuff. Okay, now we're going to start with our tinsel. I put a wrap at the back and then I start coming forward. Again, keep it underneath, as we did with the floss. And I'll clean that up. Okay, now we're going to put on our throat. Again, use about 1/2 inch barbs. Position it. And just bring it up and over, and it will slide around on top. There we go. If you want that to sit down a little bit more, just put a soft wrap right at the back. There we go. Next step is our white bucktail. Now the one thing we're going to do with this is we're going to take a bit of a generous clump, because we're going to pick through it and make sure we only get the long straight bits. So I'm going to grab a good chunk of this. And I'm going to strip the short bits over my garbage can. Get rid of the short bits. Now I'm also going to take a moment to go through this and pick out any stray looking bits as well, like ones that are really bent or sticking up at odd angles. Okay, now I'm going to put it in my hair stacker. Put it level. Grab the tips. And here's the time to get a good look at it to see if there's any other bits you want to get rid of. Okay, that looks really good. Now I'm going to put this the length of the tail. I'm going to do a pinch loop and then pull up. Okay, there might be some loose bits in there. Now you see it's kind of splayed a little bit. That's where those soft wraps come into play. We'll just put a couple of soft wraps behind it. It'll help some of it sit down. Now we'll come in with our scissors and we'll cut off at an angle the waist. Now we've got this tapered bit and we'll work nice and smoothly, get a nice tapered head out of this. Now, some softer wraps at the back. Now just make sure everything is cleaned up. One last pass with the thread. Again, some softer wraps at the back. Come forward and we'll finish. Okay, now we're ready for a head cement. I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to start off with UV glue, and then I'm going to go with a top coat to harden that UV glue and keep the gloss on it. Now for the top coat, and this is not nail polish, it's top coat. It's meant to go over the top of nail polish and other decorations that women like to put on their fingernails. And it's designed to go over UV glue, so that's the reason why I'm using top coat. It puts a nice gloss on it. Okay, so there's our black ghost with the bucktail wing, all ready to go fishing. So give it a try. It's a simple streamer pattern. It's a great introduction to classic streamers. And as you can see, I've done it on a classic streamer hook with a floss body. And it catches fish. I mean, these are effective patterns. So give it a try. Enjoy.